Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, April 21st, 2017, the WNW 280. I took off last week for the Easter holiday. Hey, for Christians, Easter is the Super Bowl Sunday. It's what Christianity is all about, the death and resurrection of Christ. And I went also, just to start this out with, I saw the movie The Case for Christ. Fantastic movie. Really a scientific almost journey by a journalist who was an atheist that sources, the death and the resurrection of Christ. A lot of sources for that. You should see the movie. It got 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, which was better than the fate of the Vin Diesel movie, The Fate of the Furious, I believe. But anyway, I digress. I want to start with North Korea. And the headline kind of says it all. North Korea threatens U.S. with super mighty preemptive strike. They're talking about wiping out the South Korean peninsula and Japan and parts of the U.S., if not all the U.S. That is an unbelievable threat for a country that now there is no doubt it has nuclear weapons. Now, that is not being heard in isolation. Here we have, you've heard about the Chinese last week. They're putting their troops on the border. They put their bombers on high alert. Well, check this out. Putin sends troops to Russia's border with North Korea. And China's already there. I think I have it right there. And I just want to give you a little map here, and we'll show you what's going on. That here we have, we have Russia right here. It'll be the nip of a border. They got troops there, and of course there's China and North Korea, South Korea, Japan, and supposedly there's an armada, as the White House press secretary Sean Spicer says, an armada heading to the South Korean peninsula. And I don't know if it's a head fake with the Carl Vinson. It's ending up in the Indian Ocean. Maybe they're positioning things all over. But an armada carrier strike group is about 10 ships. That can include submarines as well. Are there two carrier strike groups there with submarines? We have the U.S. has 70, 75, 80, I don't know, something like that, submarines in its fleet, and they can all shoot missiles. So it's quite a hot situation here, where they put a carrier on this side and a carrier on this side, and then they'd launch flight operations here. I mean, this is not a great deal of distance. Of course, South Korea is saying that it would wipe out everything, in North Korea is saying it's wipe out South Korea. Probably it's already had, sent missiles out here in the Sea of Japan, which fell in the Sea of Japan, which is really what started this all going. And now they're saying they are going, the North Koreans, I should say, they are going to have, more missile tests, nuclear tests, intercontinental ballistic tests. North Korea also has submarines. Have they stationed some off the west coast of the United States? Have they stationed one or two off the east coast of the United States to send out an EMT device over the U.S.? I don't know. But that is the hottest of hot situations going on. And this goes along with the tensions with Iran and the so-called nuclear deal, which nobody signed, which President Trump was basically dogging again. The tensions in Syria and also Ukraine. I mean, you add in this new Korean possible conflict, and this one's going to go nuclear. Back in the 50s, nobody's going to go nuclear. But you're talking about maybe China invading. You're talking about Russia sending troops there, Russia warning the U.S. This is very hot, folks. And then President Trump saying China needs to take care of that, or we will. And then we send this armada. There's at least one carrier strike group, maybe two. What's in Japan? What's under the water? What would the North Koreans do? Would they shoot first in a preemptive, what did they say? At some point, Kim Jong, unstable, a super mighty preemptive strike. At some point, you got to take a country armed with nuclear missiles seriously. So I don't know. Is there a big head fake going on? Is it a bluff? Are both sides bluffing? Is one side bluffing? Are they both for real? I do not know. I do know this is tensions that we haven't seen in the world ever, with a country the size of North Korea flexing its muscles with its nuclear weapons that all sources say they have. I want to move on to the Russian collusion. And now we get this report out, and this is broken by CBS News, saying that the CIA FBI reportedly targeting a traitor inside the CIA as the source of WikiLeaks dump. And this was, of course, this Vault 7 dump, the most recent dump, and they also going back to 2010. Well, what have I been telling you? What has WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, been telling you that the information they dumped out did not come from Russia? Well, evidently, the CIA and FBI think that is true. So where is the collusion? Where is that story going? The collusion story. They've already admitted, many top brass in the Obama administration admitted that the Russians did not change a single vote. They did not hack a voting machine. They say they dumped information. Well, now we find out it wasn't the Russians. So the Russian collusion story is going nowhere. And then we find out this, the Obama administration, I brought this up, I think, just before I went on, my little break. Obama, Comey relied on discredited dossier to obtain FISA warrant on Trump campaign. We're talking about that dossier from the former MI6 British spy, where they compiled some bogus dossier that nobody would touch, not even the Clinton campaign would touch, because they said they, quote, nobody would believe it. The New York Times wouldn't run it. I mean, BuzzFeed did, which was crazy. They also had the Michael Cohen source that Michael Cohen, Trump's top lawyer, was colluding with the Russians. Oops, wrong Michael Cohen. And this is what Comey used to get a FISA warrant to go on a fishing trip, and he would not charge Hillary Clinton after a mountain of evidence with her and her subordinates in a global charity fraud using private servers to cover the fact they were taking treasonous bribes. It's absolutely off the charts, unbelievable. And yet, Comey, who I have said on more than one occasion is compromised, corrupt, or both. And that's what they used to get a FISA warrant, this bogus dossier that nobody would touch, that was floating around New York and Washington and all the major networks for months, that nobody would touch it because nobody believed it. But the FBI did. And CNN's doing a story about, well, they're supposed to confirm. They didn't confirm that Trump was peeing on beds and that Michael Cohen was in fact, the Michael Cohen that was working for Donald Trump, because he wasn't. Totally discredited dossier, totally discredited. And how Comey and Obama and the Loretta Lynch Justice Department can justify going to the FISA court and getting a warrant to snoop on an incoming president, and an outgoing president using the spy services and the FBI to spy on an incoming president to undermine and destroy and impeach Maxine Waters. Where do you think she got that from? To impeach him. And I think nobody in the room, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, nobody in the room, the Obama room, the Obama administration room, sat around and asked this one question. Hey, what if we don't get anything? What if this doesn't work? Well, that means people are going to go to jail. You have not heard the end of this. This makes, as I've said in the past, Watergate look like a squirt gun fight. There's no There's no collusion, according to the FBI and the CIA, who are now looking for a traitor that gave the documents to Julian Assange. And speaking of Julian Assange, here we have the U.S. prepares charges to seek the arrest of WikiLeaks' Julian Assange. And if you look here, Mike Pompeo, the CIA director, says it's, basically a time to call out WikiLeaks for what is really listen to this, folks, a non-state hostile intelligence service often abetted by state actors like Russia. Well, we just found out that the CIA and the FBI don't think Russia gave them these Vault 7 leaks that was, they say, the worst in history, one of the worst security breaches in history. And Julian Assange has long said he did not get his stuff from the Russians. So, I mean, if you look at what happened, Perez, the new head of the DNC, first thing Perez did when he went over there was fire everybody. You think he's got a confidence problem? You think he has a trust problem with everybody in the Democratic National Committee? I mean, if the new head of the Republican National Committee walked in the first week or so, fired everybody, wouldn't that make big news? But it didn't make big news. did the, which tells me the leaks, at least some of them, came from the DNC. Probably somebody who was upset that they were cheating for Hillary Clinton and they're cheating against Bernie Sanders, who should have won it all, and he was cheated out of getting the nomination. And then they cheated some more, to try to get her elected, and she supposedly won the popular vote. But I think there were millions of illegal votes cast, especially for illegal aliens. And please, the mainstream press and the ultra-liberal left-wing media keeps telling us there's no evidence. Well, maybe somebody should tell Barack Obama this. I've said this in the past because I heard him say, watched him say, make a plea for illegal aliens to vote in the upcoming election, and you're citizens when you vote. That's about what he said. And also, don't worry, you won't be prosecuted. So maybe somebody should tell the leader of the Democrat Party that illegals don't vote in these elections, because evidently he thinks they do and would vote in mass in the millions to vote. But I digress. That's what this is about. This is about two things. This is about Trump wanting to win the next election. Deportations increase. And we're talking about, dreamers and people who've been in the country for years. Somehow they think, well, I've been in the country for years. It's like, hey, I robbed a bank years ago. You didn't catch me. Well, I did good work, and I stopped robbing banks, and every illegal alien that came in here, of course, they want to call them undocumented. Every mainstream undocumented, just an accounting thing. Every mainstream story uses that phony term. That's a made-up term, so it's a political term, because they don't want to call it illegal aliens, saying, oh, you mean they committed an illegal act to come in America? Yes, they did. But I think this is a two-pronged idea. And prong number one is they're going to deport people. And they're going to deport people. And do you think that might cause a chilling effect on illegals going to the polls and voting if they think ICE is going to be there to arrest them and kick them out? Because that's what that message is. Number two, this is a cost-saving thing. Hey, newsflash, America doesn't have the money it used to have. We're $20 trillion in debt. We're $200 trillion in debt in obligations, and that's never going to get paid back. Never. That's never going to get paid back, and this is why these courts, this is another USA Today story, immigration courts face, crush in cases. They have a lot of cases, and they're hiring lawyers to clear the cases, and a lot of people are going to get deported because they're here illegally. They're not here, just miscounted, and if we count them, then they're legally here. Nope. No, they're illegally here. They're illegally getting benefits. Well, some places they're legal because they give them to us, so they buy their votes with the taxpayers' money. They broke the law to get here, and they're staying here. And so Trump this is his big, right from the get-go goal. Jeff Sessions, you see him this week on camera saying, if you're an illegal immigrant, illegal alien, don't come here. You're going to be arrested and deported. And if you've committed crimes, you're going to be jailed. That's basically what he said. Of course, crossings, illegal aliens crossing the border. The next thing that should happen is that there are no federal funds to any illegal immigrants, period, the end. Period, the end. That we are going to take care of our citizens. I mean, can you imagine the problems that illegal immigrants cause for people who are in the entry-level job theater, where all these illegal aliens flood in and lower wages and take jobs from African Americans and Asians and whites and every other kind of, and other Hispanic Americans who actually live here and are citizens? I mean, Coretta Scott King said, hey, listen, illegal immigration does not help the black community. Right she is, because it doesn't. It helps them. It helps Mexico. It doesn't help us. And it's a net big drag on the U.S. economy with all this welfare stuff. Even Jeff Sessions talked about, we gotten away from this, but you're an immigrant here. You're not supposed to be a drag on the welfare system. But everyone is. So that is a cost-saving measure, and it is a way that Donald Trump is going to end what he said, 3 to 5 million illegal votes. I think he's right. And I'll say this again. Somebody should tell the President of the United States, the former President of the United States, Barack Obama, that, hey, illegals don't vote in the elections. But I heard him say on camera that he was asking and imploring illegals to vote in the 2016 election. So somebody should tell Barack Obama, hey, they don't vote in the election, which is a total left-wing propaganda lie. That's why they've made states like California, oh, the whole state's going to be a sanctuary state. Whose sanctuary? I want to move on with the economy, and this is just a couple of points here. I mean, Deutsche Bank, they admitted paid fines to rigging the gold market, rigging the silver market. All the bankers have rigged every market under the sun, LIBOR, Forex markets, commodities markets, you name it. I mean, this past week, the gold market was total under attack with naked short selling that the CFTC will not enforce. The SEC, none of the regulators will enforce people just dumping counterfeit paper. They don't have gold by the ton of paper, which they do not intend to sell, don't have it to sell. Total lie, fraud of trying to lower the gold price and the silver price, total lie. And it's just unbelievable that they just use fraud to prop up the economy. Folks, you are in a fantasy land if you think that this is a real economy. As I've said this week in a couple of different interviews, the Federal Reserve has a trading desk. Sorry, choked up. The Federal Reserve can print money to trade wheat, cotton, corn, gold, silver, currencies, derivatives, interest rates, stocks, bonds, anything they want. Why does the Federal Reserve have a trading desk? Well, that'd be to control the price of everything. That is going to end terrible. And Gregory Mannarino came up, and I was talking to him today, and he says, this is just his off the top of his head opinion. I wrote it down. And he said, everybody thinks that the bond market is unstoppable, the stock market is unstoppable, that the housing market is unstoppable. And he says, let me tell you, this is going to stop. It's going to stop at some point, hard and fast. I couldn't agree more. And here's how they're propping it up. So Deutsche Bank, who just last year or so, pled guilty to rigging the gold and silver market and fingered a couple of other primary dealer banks. Deutsche Bank, fined $157 million after its traders were found still using the chat rooms to rig the FX, the Forex, the currency markets. Still rigging the markets. Still committing fraud, still propping up the system with fraud, still cashing a paycheck with fraud, and nobody goes to jail. Nobody. $157 million fine means they probably stole $15 billion. I mean, that's just like a toll on the New Jersey Turnpike. Ting, ting. Here's another little snapshot of the economy. John Williams says, the economy is, turning down. And, of course, the Atlanta Fed just came out with another revision. What do they say? A 0.5% growth. This is the one thing that I know is freaking out Donald Trump. Okay? 0.5% growth. And here we have Subway stores. They shut hundreds of U.S. stores. This is on Bloomberg. This is this is the first time in history 359 stores gone. Now, you may think, wow, they still have, more than 26,000 stores still left, but that's a big signpost. Closing, a sandwich shops, places where people buy cheap food, closing down. And that is just a signpost in the economy. Lots going on in the economy and overseas as well. And I put this in the economy section, which I'm closing with, and that is this. This is over in France. This just happened this past week. A police officer, a Kalashnikov yielding shooter killed in Paris, a terrorist attack. ISIS claims responsibility. Marine Le Pen, who is in the populist movement, and the IMF, Christine Lagarde, she's worried about the populist movement. They're all worried about the populist movement. Paul Ryan is over in Europe trying to sell another New World Order government. I mean, here is the Speaker of the House, and he's more worried about the rest of the world than people in his own state and people in his own country. Paul Ryan. And so this is, did this just put Marine Le Pen, who is the female Donald Trump of France, over the top. You think those people would be sick of people mowing down their citizens with trucks and shooting them and having these coordinated attacks in Paris and around the country and in Nice, with the truck, running over, dozens of people. You think that people in France would have it just about up to here with the Islamic radical terrorism in ISIS. And I know the Muslims, it's not Islam. Oh, it's the Islamic State, right? It's not Islam. It's the Zionists. They're the ones doing it. Really? No, it's radical Islamic terrorism because they want to take over Europe. They want to take over the world, and this is their deal. And it's parts of it. Not every Muslim is bad, but it's 1.6 billion people. If 10% are wackadoodle, I mean that's 160 million possible terrorists. So that if Marine Le Pen does get voted in to lead France, then the next big problem is going to be forming a government. But you can bet that things going to hit the trash can. I mean, there's some people that are already forecasting, Doug Casey for one, forecasting that the fall of the European Union is imminent. I mean, they have all this debt. They have this bogus, European Central Bank, printing up these European bonds. The debt's no good. The bonds are no good. And I want to close with this about the economy, about things tail spinning, about closing sandwich shops, about using fraud to prop up the economy. And that is this. If the economy overall is that bad, where you can't make your debt payments, like on all these bonds, like, the bonds in Puerto Rico that they stopped paying on. If you can't make your debt payments, the bonds are worthless. And just one figure I read, just since Donald Trump won the election, I think between bonds and stock market gains and all that, that's $8 trillion of gains. And most of this is inflated, funny money, hope on the hype that we'll get we'll stop giving away the free stuff and actually cut healthcare costs. I don't think it's going to happen, folks. They don't want to stop giving away the free stuff. Or maybe we'll get a big giant tax cut. And now, well, not for the little people, just for the corporations. So, listen, if you can't make the payments for these bonds, which have grown, then the whole system is going to come down. And like Gregory Mannarino says, listen, the bond market, the housing market, the stock market, everybody thinks it's supported by central banks, supported by the Fed. It's unstoppable. And he says, and I'll say it again, it's going to come to a stop. And when it does, it's going to come to a stop hard and fast. Thank you for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments and your donations. That helps us out. And remember, fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all spiritually. Go out and see that movie, The Case for Christ. Go out and see it. Above all spiritually, fear not. God the Father is in charge.